Come on in here, my friends. If you blink, you miss this. The mod collection created a beast. They labeled it as a Les Paul Modern Studio Ruby Red Wyvern. Most people are familiar with dragons. They have 2 wings and 4 appendages, whereas a drake is similar but without the wings. But there's also a version without the legs, and then there's without everything, and one just with arms. But no, our wyvern just has 2 legs, and his arms are kind of built in with his wings. But what did they do here? Is it fancy carving? No, this just appears to be a cool paint job. So we've got these scales going on and this ruby metallicness, and then they have like painted on binding / pinstriping. There's a few different ways you could see this, but they've got multiple banded layers before having separate sections and a little bit of a crest right here. And then just for fun, they threw our old voodoo pickups on here, slug coils. And we got our matching voodoo knobs. But being a modern studio, we do indeed have traditional binding on the neck. However, it's black, so you might have missed it. But look closely. We don't have any fret nibs. It's kind of cool. We've seen this before, but it's the headstock that sold me. Yeah, that's right. They did the same thing up here. But look at this. It's small. It's some custom brass truss rod cover that has the animal that they're talking about. I think that's its eye, and like this is just the head of the beast. Like this is its neck, and then here's its jaw, and then this is a nose, and then just his head feathers and whatnot. Whenever there's an animal influenced guitar, mythical or not, I love having the decal on the back, so if they're not going to do that, this is the next best thing. Otherwise, we've got our tinted clear coat, we've got the continuation of our scales over here, but what's really bugging me now that I've zoomed in, we've got the continuation of that added binding-like effect, but what is this? They didn't follow the open book, and it looks weird. But to match our black nut, we also have the black tuner tips. But if you thought they stopped there, just black backed it. No, continuation of the same, and we've got the painted backplate covers. They even gave you a separate section right here where they carved the body away for your heel cut. That's one way to get around that area. And I was trying to see, are the edges similar? Are they black? I can still see a few sparkles. Or you know what it actually is? This dark area right here, it's probably that just with a little bit of metal flake, would be my guess. But whoa, what I was complaining about on the front was done right on the back. That's funny, but you get the continuation of all that. And before we get to our mod collection decal, and yes, there is an inlaid stinger effect here, before we see the rest of our ruby sparkly neck. And if all that wasn't enough for you, gotta applaud the mod collection, guys. They gave it a voodoo case. But look at that. Not only are they the voodoo pickups, but it's the HP4 high performance circuit. I believe that's the one with the dip switches, is it not? So that's cool. Now, I know it's a studio, but I feel they could have got more than $1,000 premium on that. No doubt in my mind, that still would have went quick at 4. Our next one also sold quickly with the oddly titled Mr. Green Cheese, labeled as strictly a Les Paul Studio. It's one of the current era ones that still has the cream binding, but then they've matched it with what looks like green binding. It's like our last guitar though. I believe that's just strictly painted on this. But then we've got dual P94 pickups before we get to this very unique finish. They've got this cheesecloth design going on, which could also look like really tight pinstriping of wood, but then the white plastics pop everything else. But what I'm liking the most from this is they gave it a slightly darker green border, and you can tell that they continued the burst pattern on the edge, because it gets dark here, light there, and then, oh, our headstock. That is fascinating. It almost looks like a fake, but at the same time, I really enjoy it, because they continued our painted on binding, did everything on the edge. They gave you a new black Les Paul model silkscreen. You don't see that every day. And then this is one of those few times where a black silkscreen logo works great. Then on the back, it reminds me of a Green Widow, but you've just got the continuation of your bordered edge. And then they bursted your neck just like a Les Paul custom. They were certainly bringing their A game this week. They ran that painted binding layer right underneath your normal binding. The only thing that would make this release better is if they gave it a money green case. Let's see, did they? Nah, no. Just the black one, but it still works with our theme. But that was about a $600 premium. But then we have the garish green Les Paul Jr. They certainly achieved what they were going for. Red tortoiseshell pickguard, a cream dog ear P90 pickup cover, and then a golden wrap tail matched with the similar knobs. That is certainly some sort of a lime green hue. Reminds me a lot of the M3 reissue series. But you know what? From a couple of feet back, since they didn't mess with the headstock too much, it's not that bad. However, hear me out. Matching tortoiseshell headstock will make this thing live up to its name. But along the edge of the fretboard, I'm not sure if this is still the rosewood and we're just seeing its side, but it nearly looks painted. Even if we view the other side. Usually if this was just the bare rosewood, it would look a little bit more uniform, not all paint splotchy. But then looking at the back, looks like they went for a black backplate cover and everything else is just green. They gave you the custom shop Les Paul Jr. case, even though this is a Gibson USA product. But if you're looking for something higher end, they also had Tora Tigre, a 1959 Les Paul reissue. Reminds me of the old Fireball Studios. It's a decent flame top, but whenever R9s get black plastics, unless it's a gold top dark back, I just think they end up looking kind of cheap. But you know what this actually is? It's tri-burst without the darker edge border. Like you could see a little bit of it, but oh no, now I see it. It's technically a perimeter burst. But our back is just red, looks like a normal gloss finish without anything too much going on it. In fact, really plain as compared to what we've seen so far this week. They can't all be crazy dogs. But here we go, 57 reissue starting line sparkle. We've got a bit of a Texas tea hue going on with the red pinstripes down the center. With a few modifications to our color scheme, you could make this an Ohio State helmet pretty quickly. I would say maybe they were going off of like a track. They're kind of black and sparkly like that, depending on your lighting. But to match your plain red center stripes, they gave you just the red cherry sides. And oh, some fun on the headstock. That looks like it's a matching black sparkle with red Gibson logo. That looks great on a reissue. And even though at first it just looks like regular red, which that might be true for just the body, also note the Moto backplates, there might be a slight metallic nature to that finish, because that just looks a little bit more shiny than usual. So metallic but still transparent would be my educated guess. But if you don't want guesses, just read the description. Yeah, confirmed. Apparently those stripes have it too. And now we've got the Sedona Sunset on a 60 standard. Reminds me of the Nitrous Series Les Paul Studio, the orange one, but with just a little bit of a hue variation on the edge. But then you've got your witch hat knobs, lack of a pick guard, black plastics, and an interesting natural neck paired with a darker edge. That's certainly a statement looking at it from the back. And outside of that, the headstock looks fairly normal. But you thought we were done with the crazy ones. Here's Birthday Grains. Just a dirty natural, basically a black grain fill with a more ambered over natural hue. This looks good. However, I'm not so sure about this. What they've done is, that is the Gibson open book headstock shape right here, just in case you missed it. So they've just mirrored the headstock and made that your extended tenon cover. Certainly eye-catching, good or bad, I'll leave that up to you. But the cream plastics works well, but the uniqueness does not end there. They left our fretboard alone, but our headstock. We've got the continuation of our more natural finish. We get a matching tortoiseshell cover. We get the old-timey Gibson logo. But you've got to look closely on that. It is a transparent red, so you get to see through to the wood grain. That's fun, and then you get the old-timey fancy tuner tips. But now we can flip over to the back. They're open back tuners. Doesn't look like anything else is going to be different, just that natural finish everywhere else. Black backplate. And ouch! Gotcha with the Gibson USA case for some reason. They were playing the old swapperoonie. And then we had the Hollow Forest. The semi-hollow forest. I'm glad I clicked on this one. I just thought it was, kind of a darkish grayish green, but nah, sure enough. Zoom in here, they give you these like pinstriped binding layers. That must have just been their theme this week. Then we've got those cheapy looking ambered knobs to kind of play off our dark walnut sides. But you know what? That is fascinating. That is a dark walnut color right here. So I wonder, did this actually start life a dark walnut hue and then they taped it off and then sprayed this new metallic paint job over it? Because normally when they do stuff like this, you can't see through to the wood grain and other variations. That is actually a pretty cool idea. Looks like they had to refret it too. Perhaps their vision was that's the roots of the trees. Then you get the continuation of our rosewood fretboard. And as far as our headstock, Looks like black top and really glossy sides. Now the EU mod collection, they had a pretty nice deep sapphire standard 50s. It'll never win most exotic award, but I think that is truly tasteful and they could probably do a production run of those. With a nice light metallic blue top and then the natural back and sides. Basically a gold top that's just gone blue and you get the cream plastics. With absolutely nothing else special going on here. Tricked ya! Blue Stinger. Not sure how well it works, but it's certainly a lot of fun and adds a little bit of flair and makes it earn the mod collection decal. I thought the back was looking strange, so it looks like the Stinger's gloss, but then the neck is satin? How do they even do that? Do they tape off the areas that they want to be satin and then continue buffing the other? It's kind of a shame that the back is satin because you can tell that's got a lot of figuring and movement in it. Well, that's okay. A quick little polished cloth will take care of that. There's also the Plum Sparkle Les Paul Studio. This thing's looking like some sort of a 2016 high-performance guitar over here. It's got the HP knobs with abalone toppers. You've got your bridge that you can adjust with your Allen keys, and then you've got the metal toppers on your pickups, and then a really cool purplish finish. And oh, some weirdness going on to our headstock. Yep, I used the right words there. Kind of a cheap looking truss rod cover. It looks like it was homemade. And let's just say, if I didn't see this in the mod collection, I would question the authenticity of the looks of the logo. And then the back is just completely matching with that nice plum hue. I think it's a good one. It was listed at €1,800. A further showstopper piece this week was Blurple Mist. Blurple Rain, with that whole purple top, white back, and a kind of an uglyish cream binding layer. It's certainly an acquired taste, and you've even got some metallic, sparkly nature over here. Kind of surprised not to see a matching straight white headstock or something, but it does look like our neck is going to be white. In fact, the whole back, that's actually impressive. You don't see many white Les Paul standards, mainly because Gibson just has so much trouble with white finishes. They just don't like to do them as often. However, if you do want a white Les Paul standard, look to the late 80s. That's the first time that I'm aware of them having at least some sort of a production run. This one's definitely geared for someone with an eclectic taste, but I think it pulls off the look well enough. And that's what the mod collection's all about. You only have to speak to one person, and you're supposed to have fun. But now, for the demo shop, here's what we got this time. It was a Les Paul Modern in a seafoam green finish. However, it was really the top grain of this one that spoke to me. It was very tight, like it's not the wide flame, it's not really pinstriped either. It almost has a pixelation-like effect to it, but not. I'm sure this would actually categorize as a lower grade maple top. However, something about it, I enjoy it. We also had a standard 50s in the classic white top. I guess we were just talking about white standards, but these don't have the white back. It's still natural, but I thought that one had some nice wood grain. Then this J45 standard, when you first look at it, it's like, okay, nothing too special. But on the headstock, there's a weird blemish. There must have been like a small contamination right here, and it caused the finish to bubble. It's either that or there's like a plastic disc that got caught on the finish. And here's an Explorer Custom. I like the walnut. That is gorgeous. And you technically get a $300 discount. But next in the lineup, they had a standard 60s and iced tea, but this time they outfitted it with gold hardware and just to give it a little bit of a different flair. We were talking about Tri-Burst earlier. If you like that hue, they had the 1960 reissue. You don't normally find that, especially not with just a natural back, which is what gives this run a uniqueness. I wonder if this is a Guitar Center exclusive, as they're typically the guys that do Tri-Burst the most. Then we had another golden hardware one. Mahogany top standard 60s. I think it's one of the ugliest things I've ever seen, but hey, it's unique, it's modified. They motoed everything that they possibly could. But check this one out. Honeyburst standard 50s. I'm not usually even a fan of that kind of a top, but since it has the cross hatching to the pinstripiness, again, it reminds me of the 80s Les Pauls. It looks good. And then you flip it over to the back and bam, you got some more fun. That is a really good one, and it even has like some interesting darkness to the neck. I wonder if that's just the photo, or is it a little bit in the wood? Let's just say, I'm tempted. If I get a 10% off offer or something, maybe we'll review that. And then lastly, there was an Access Standard in the double gold finish with dark back. All right, Trogly, I hope you enjoyed this week's recap. I know I did. Lots of cool ones this week. But if not, hey, there's always tomorrow for the next episode.